So I'm doing the traditional Q&As for you. You know the drill, so please write your questions in the comments, and when the first comment appears, I will start answering that, and we'll see, maybe like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending. I would need to go somewhere today as well before I go home, so probably will not be as long as usual, like 45 minutes or something, but I'll be happy to spend like 15, 20, 25 minutes if needed with you. So please ask your questions in the comments and I'll be happy to answer them. It can be any topic. Mir, hello Jan, how are you? I'm good. How are you, Mir? Thank you for joining. Yeah, so it can be actually any topic, Czech immigration. So any type of visa, any type of residence permit, starting a business in the Czech Republic, looking for accommodation, health insurance, whatever you're interested in, just type your question in and I'll be happy to answer. So waiting for the first questions in the comments. Who is it gonna be? I bet on Mir because he already wrote some comments. So, but guys, for those of you who have just joined, I'm doing the live Q&As. So if you have any Qs, I'll be happy to give you the As to that. So any topic related to the Czech Republic and immigration and business or health insurance, renting an apartment, anything you like. So Mujamel, sorry for mispronouncing. Hussein, Czech Republic TRC card, change any country. Well, if you mean that if you get a Czech Republic residence card and then you can easily switch it to another country, I would say that that's not that easy. It depends on the type of residence permit you get. If you, for example, get a blue card in the Czech Republic, it might be a bit easier for you to get a blue card in some other EU country, but it's not like directly interchangeable or exchangeable, that if you have a residence permit, you will automatically get a residence permit somewhere else. It might make it easier or it might make it even possible, because in some cases it might not be possible to get a residence permit directly, but you can get it if you go through the Czech Republic, or more like vice versa. But not generally that if you get a Czech residence permit, you can automatically get a residence permit in some other country, no. Mir, I'm fine, thank you. I've sent you an email and unfortunately the queue is too long. Well, so ask now. Yeah, because guys, a lot of you contact us with questions and general questions. So if it's something that requires a longer discussion, it's better to book an appointment with us, a book consultation, where we can assign either me or one of my colleagues to answer the questions in details, or try to search, if it's something like simple, try to search the channel or go to our blog where we've written, I don't know how many, like tens of blog posts about different topics as well. So most likely you will also find the answer there, or the consultation is always best. But if you have me now, then please ask here and I'll be happy to answer here. A. Sulejmanov. Hello, Jan. I have permanent residence. Can I bring my mom to Czechia? She's 57 and widowed, no work, just normal housewife. How is it real to bring her? So let me read that carefully. Permanent residency, bring my mom. She's 57 and widowed, no work, just normal housewife. Well, there is a limit. I'm not now sure, because there are different limits for different things. Let's say for PR there is a different age limit, for family reunification there is a different age limit, but I believe it's 60. So when she turns 60, you will be able to bring her here with kind of no problems, because she's widowed. If you wanted to bring her now, she would need to be in a bad state of health, let's say, and completely dependent on you. So if she can live there herself and she can take care of herself, probably that will be complicated until she reaches 60 or 62, but I believe it's 60. Only in case her her condition, like health condition, medical conditions, worsened a bit now, a lot now, meaning that she's good. She can live there herself easily now, and now something happens and she will not be able to live on her own. Then you could bring her. But when she reaches the age limit, then it doesn't matter. She just needs to be solitary, which she is, and it doesn't matter what her health status is. But there is the age limit. Mir, which type of insurance we should take? If my study is 4,500, I guess, dollars a year, and I have $12,000 in my bank account, will be enough. Well, there are a couple perspectives. First thing is that for any type of visa, I remember I read the email, but anyway, so if you have $12,000 in your bank account, it's more than enough for your first visa application. If you want to come here as a student, then you need to show equivalent to 120,000 crowns, which would be $4,000 or $5,000. Let's say $5,000 to be on the safe side, so $5,000, and you have way more than that. If your course costs 4,500, so that's 9.5, that's completely fine. So you still have like $2,500 or $3,000 left, so you will be fine. The insurance will cost you something, but depending on your age would be around, let's say, 20,000 crowns, so $1,000. So you should be fine, but you will need to prove your balance or your monthly income every year, because you only get the student residence permit for 1 year and you renew it. That's done because if you don't pass your exam and you don't go to the next school year, you cannot get your residence permit extended. So you need to prove your income or your bank balance every year. Čína vazy musíme. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing, guys. I'm doing my best, but some of the names I cannot even imagine how they are pronounced. So, do you support working visa process? Well, couple things here. First, what do you mean by working visa? Do you mean an employee card or a blue card or a business visa based on freelancing? So you would need to be, or like the seasonal work visa, or what do you mean? So first you would need to be like specific about like what exactly you mean. Second, it means what you mean by support. Like if you mean, let's say, find a new job, we don't do that. But if you already have a job offer and now you just want to process it, then of course we can help with the whole process, from advertising the job through like getting all the documents ready, booking an appointment for you at the embassy. But then again, it depends on what country you are from, because in some countries there are quotas and you will never submit your application because the quota is so low, meaning zero or very close to zero, that even if you have an employment contract, even if you have proof of accommodation in the Czech Republic, you will never get an appointment, or it will at least take very long time to get an appointment. So it's very difficult to answer this question in general, but hopefully this helped. Raji Jaka. Hi Jan, are taxes and immigration interlinked each other in Czech Republic as long-term residence employee card? Well, it depends. The employee card, the taxes do not really matter, because if you only have an employee card, meaning if you only have like a full-time job, employment, then your taxes are done yearly by your employer. That's a law requirement that your employer must do your taxes if you're only employed. Complication might occur if you combine employment and self-employment, or if you come here directly as a self-employed person. Because in that case, of course, the taxes are directly related to your residence permit. If you come here under the business visa, Živno visa, freelance visa, whatever we call it, and then you want to get the residence permit, then yes, taxes are actually what will decide if you will get the residence permit or not. So you need to be very careful about that. If you combine employment, self-employment, it's not something that would endanger your employee card, for example, unless there is some big problem, but you still need to make sure that you take care of it properly. So that's probably the answer. Okay, guys, any other questions? We still have 16 people. I had to use my head to see the number. Yeah, so 16 people watching. Guys, if you have any questions, please write them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, it's been 10 minutes, so I might wrap it up. But if you still have some questions regarding visas, residence permits, accommodation, health insurance, starting a business, please comment. I'll be happy to answer them. Chal Jindie official. I won't change my visa. Okay. There are, of course, many different rules on changing the visa or residence permit, so I would need to know a bit more to tell you if it's possible and how it is possible. But generally you can, but there are some rules you need to follow. So before you hopefully write a bit more about your situation, or even if you don't, so just couple of rules. You can always switch to an employee card, blue card, and the proper student residence permit. So if you, whatever you do, you have an employee card or family reunification and you start to study an accredited program like an official studies, then you can switch to a student residence permit. Or if you find a job and the job is willing to help you and sponsor you, then you can switch to an employee card, blue card, that's fine. If you wanted to switch to the business residence permit from whatever you have, it's only possible after 5 years of living here in general. There are some workarounds, but not much. And if you want to switch to a temporary residence permit, you are dating or you are married to an EU citizen, then you can always switch to the partnership visa or the temporary residence permit. That's also possible always, anytime. So let's see if you edit more information. I have protection visa now. Yeah, unfortunately, that sucks. Yeah, because as of now, you cannot really change to anything. Honestly speaking, the temporary protection is as good as you can get. There is nothing really much better for the standard immigrants, let's say. But of course, the problem with the temporary protection is that no one knows what will happen after. They've already extended twice, but there was always like this discussion and they didn't know what they would do and if they would extend it, whatever. So as of now, you cannot switch to anything else. Maybe to a blue card, but I don't think so. So yeah, as of now, you cannot switch. In the future, maybe, but we will probably know when we get again closer to next March. Ala Omar. Hi Jan, can small architectural design studios give HPP contract to foreigner from Iraq? Generally, yes, that's not a problem in general, but it depends on the situation. Thing is, I guess that's your situation, that you got a job offer from a studio and now you're just trying to see if it could work out somehow. So technically, yes, but there are some things they need to fulfill. Let's say your employer, of course, they need to follow the standard procedure. So they need to advertise the position with the labor office. You meanwhile need to collect a bunch of documents. Then you have to get an appointment at some Czech embassy and submit your application. Then after the approval, they will need to take some steps as well. So that's one thing. That's just technicalities, but there are other things that, for example, they need to have like a real office, ideally also the business or like a studio where someone can actually find them. So it's not like in someone's apartment, but it's in some office building or whatever. Also, the business address of the company cannot be a virtual address. So they need to have like the business address must be a real place, again, where the decisions are made. Or I don't know why I did that, but like it must be a place where the directors or shareholders actually make the decisions officially. So it should not be some virtual space, just a mailbox or something, but it must be like a physical place. And they of course need to give you a proper salary, so at least the minimum wage, but most likely for architects or whatever would be your official position, that might be higher. So as long as they can do this, then you can apply for an employee card or a blue card. Should not be a problem. Just needs to be approached adequately. Ora, what's the difference between employee card and residence permit for work, if any? And there is an option to get it abroad after biometric data. I'm trying to figure out what exactly you're asking about. So employee card, residence permit to work. Okay, so there are generally three kind of things. Excuse me the lack of proper word, but like let's say three things that allow you to stay in the Czech Republic. One is the long-term visa. Long-term visa is just a sticker in your passport. The maximum validity is 1 year, nothing too serious. Then the next thing, or the next step, let's say, or next type, is a residence permit card. So that's a separate piece of ID. It's not attached directly to your passport, but it's a separate piece of ID with your fingerprints, photo, digitalized signature, all that. The validity there is, it depends on what kind of residence permit you get, but up to 5 years, but in most cases 2 years. And in case you come here for employment, then you get this long-term residence permit for the purpose of employment, and it's so-called employee card. So an employee card is a type of a long-term residence permit. So probably in this meaning might be the same. And then the third thing is the last step for most people, and that's the permanent residence permit, which is also a biometric card, but it's the status, the permanent residence status is basically permanent forever, so no one will ever kick you out. So you get the residence card usually for 10 years, and then you just keep renewing the card, you don't renew the status. With the employee card, you always need to renew your status, and if you don't have a job, you cannot really extend the employee card. That has some rules. The permanent residence changes that. You don't need to have any purpose to stay here. And is it possible to get it abroad after biometric data? If you applied for the employee card or blue card or whatever outside of the Czech Republic, then you cannot really do anything there because the process must be finished in the Czech Republic. So they might have taken your fingerprints at the embassy. I've heard that it sometimes happens, but it doesn't matter because you will need to give your fingerprints again inside of the Czech Republic after the approval. So it doesn't work the way that if you applied really for the employee card or for a residence permit, so not just for a visa sticker, but for a residence permit, you cannot get it done at the embassy. You cannot get it done through the embassy. It always must be done inside of the Czech Republic. Jeff Santos, how long will it take to renew approved a spouse and child's long-term residence permit? Well, it depends if you're asking about the official timeline or the real life timeline. Generally speaking, again, I would need to know if they're applying for their first application or if it's just an extension. For the first application, if you came under visas and they were switching to a residence permit, it could take officially up to 270 days. If it's just extensions, it should not take longer than 60 to 90 days. In most cases, I would say it doesn't take longer, but it depends on the season, depends on the city where you apply, depends on how well is the application prepared. If you miss half of the documents when you're submitting the application, it obviously delays the process, extends the timeline. If you give them everything properly, no problems there, that usually shortens the time. It's also related to your residence permit because your family is tied to yours, so it also depends on its expiration. So it's not an easy question to answer without knowing more, but hopefully this was good enough. Charles Sengasu, hello, I'm watching from Zanzibar, Tanzania. Nice to have you here. What's the weather there? Tell me. It's now raining in Prague, which is still good for February, I would say, but yep. Europe for you. Can we change study visa to work visa after staying here for 5 months, or we can change only after 6 months? If you have a full-time job in KFC, can we change study visa with this contract? As for the second option, I would need to see the contract to see if you can switch. And also there is the other thing, which is the vacancy. I don't know why I keep doing this. I don't know. Anyway, there is the vacancy number your employer must post, and only when it's done you can apply for the employee card. So I would need to see the situation to be able to tell exactly. On the other hand, technically it's possible, but one thing, guys, if you're watching either the live stream or the recording, the ministry sees individual cases, so they see your concrete case and they consider the concrete case in like your unique circumstances. So that's why I often say that every case can be completely different, and that's because of that, because they check your documents, your status, your history in the Czech Republic, all that. So that's one thing, but they also have statistics of all the cases. So that's like thousands or tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of applications every year, and they see some trends there. So the last time we spoke with the ministry, because we meet with them at least once a year with the highest representatives of the ministry in the immigration part, and they told us that they've seen this increasing, that people come here as students and then as soon as they can, they switch to employee cards or something. And if this will continue, then the ministry will worsen the conditions for students, and it will be way more difficult for students to come here, because obviously it's just like abusing the fact that the visa for students is relatively easy to get. So people, instead of getting an employee card, which is not possible in India, for example, because there are the quotas, then people apply for a student visa, then they come here and they start working and they switch to the employee card. So even though it's technically possible to switch from a student residence permit to an employee card anytime, you don't need to wait for 5 months or 6 months or anything, but I would definitely not recommend it, because that will mess up the whole system. And if more people do this, then it will be very complicated to get here even as a student. And even if you are a real student, you don't do it just to go around the system and you don't really want to study here. But even if you are a real student, it will be way more complicated for everyone to get the visa. So even though it's possible, I would not recommend doing it. Anyway, as a student, you have free access to the labor market, so you can work freely. You are not tied to any employers. So if you can study and work at the same time, do that. It's way better. It gives you more flexibility than like switching to an employee card where you are tied to one employer anyway. Next. If I'm married, then can change my protection visa? That's a good question. That's a good question. I actually don't know, because those are two very specific cases, like applying for a temporary residency as a family member of an EU citizen. I'm now only talking about marrying an EU citizen, like a Czech citizen or other EU citizen living in the Czech Republic. I'm not talking about marrying another Ukrainian, because that will not help you at all. But marrying a Czech citizen or an EU citizen living in the Czech Republic might potentially allow you to switch from the temporary protection to the temporary residence permit. So that might be the case, but those two, like the temporary protection and the temporary residence permit, are two very specific cases with completely different like conditions than the normal types of visas. So I would need to double check. So if you want, get in touch directly and I will be happy to find out and let you know. I think that's possible, but that's the only option possible at this point. But I would still like to double check so I don't give you false information here. Ala Omar and Raji Jaka and Jeff Santos. So I will just answer these and I will finish because it's 25 minutes. We'll get into half an hour. So Ala Omar, I'm in Czechia. I have a student residence permit. How can I search for jobs that provide HPP contract? Well, any other sources or any normal sources. I did a video about that, one pretty recently, I believe, and another some time ago. where I talk about the different ways of finding a job in the Czech Republic. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, do that. Go to the channel and search. There is the magnifying glass, the search button, and just search for jobs Czech Republic or something like that, and it will find you. As a student, you can work freely. You have free access to the labor market if you're the proper student, meaning that you study an accredited program. So companies can hire you directly. So there is no process they need to go through. There is one slight tiny step they need to take if they want to hire you compared to Czech citizens. But other than that, no complication. So you can find a job anywhere. Raji, do I need to declare the taxes from worldwide incomes in the Czech Republic as an employee card holder? This is a tax question, so it would be best to speak to an accountant, which I am not, but I can connect you to one if you want to discuss this. I would say that you don't need to declare it here because no one will know anyway. So that would be my answer. But if you get a local trade license, for example, in the Czech Republic, and you will be getting the money paid through the Czech trade license, then obviously yes. But if you get business income from outside of the Czech Republic, I don't think anyone will know in the Czech Republic. So unless it's like big numbers and it flags the account or something. Jeff Santos, spouse and child are already holder of long-term residence permit, family unification, and it will expire this September. Will the ministry give them another 2 years once it's renewed? And do we have any updates if the expiration of long-term residence permit will become longer than 2 years? Well, the long-term residence permit, or this way, in most cases, the long-term residence permit, the maximum validity is 2 years. So it can be shortened for students. It can be extended for blue card holders and their family members. So if you had a blue card, then your family, so you could get the blue card for 3 years and your family could get their residence permit for 3 years as well. But if you have an employee card or you're a student or whatever, then your family, the maximum validity of the residence card is 2 years, but it's connected to yours. So it depends when yours expire. So if you said your family's residence permits are valid until September and yours is valid September 2 years from now, then yes, they will get it for 2 years. But if yours expires, say, September 25, then their residence permits will end the same day. Generally speaking, the minimum validity of the family reunification residence permit is 1 year. So even if your card its validity is shorter than 1 year, they will still get it for at least 1 year. But if yours is between 1 year and 2 years, then they will get it for the same validity as yours. Charles, I have one question. How about job for farming, agriculture? I can get job when I apply because I'm living in Zanzibar, Tanzania. Because I apply, but problems far away. If you apply, you must be EU only. Yeah, well, honestly speaking, it might be very difficult for you to get here because even if someone offers you a job, then the whole process will take maybe like 4 to 6 months minimum, depending on the quotas. I don't know if there are any quotas in Tanzania. Probably yes, but I don't know. I would need to double check. In which case it might take you even longer to get here. So even if someone if someone gave you a job, it might take like a year to get here if you're like if it goes well. So that's the main motivation, in my opinion, why companies are not willing to hire people from countries like Tanzania or some others, because it just takes too long and it's kind of complicated. Or wrote you on email, help me. Okay, I will check that email and I'll try to go through these questions real quick. Malhai. Hi Jan, how are you? Just want to ask, I'm applying for working visa through agency, but right now I'm in Kuwait. I have work here and I'm from Philippines. How is the process will be? Thanks. Well, that's okay. Philippines are okay. The quota in the Philippines has been increased. So more people from Philippines can actually apply for an employee card. As for Kuwait, that would be the easiest solution, but because I don't think there are any quotas, but it depends on how long have you been there. If you've been there for more than 2 years, then you could potentially apply in Kuwait as well. But if you've been there for less than 2 years, then you can only apply in the Philippines. So it depends on couple things. But generally speaking, the Philippines should be fine because the quota for Filipinos was increased recently, so should be all right. Ala Omar, thanks, you're the best. Thank you. Happy to help. And the last question I'll answer, if that's a question, is from Niraj Katka. I have employee card. How many months I should find new job? So, when you get the employee card, you need to stick with the first employer for at least 6 months. So you cannot change jobs within the first 6 months. There are some exceptions, but it's very unlikely that you meet the conditions. So because it's like health reason, and if your job was like too health demanding and you couldn't do the job anymore, maybe you could switch. But generally 6 months, you cannot change jobs. And then once you pass the 6 months, you can switch jobs, but you only have 60 days after you leave the previous job. So if, let's say, today is your last day in the current job, then you have 60 days to find a new job and report the change to the ministry. If you miss the deadline, you will be deported. So 6 months with the first employer, 60 days after leaving one job to find another and report it in time. Jeff Santos, thank you. All the best. Thank you as well for joining. It's been a nice live stream. Over 20 people the whole time, basically. That's perfect. So thank you. Adamek, ahoy Adamku. Thank you for joining. Mr. Jan, am I allowed to work more than 20 hours a week if I pay taxes when I'm a student? Guys, where do you get this information? That used to be valid like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that, that you could not work more than 20 hours a week. And people still ask me that same question, like continuously the whole time. Where do you get this information? Like, where did you find that like there is a limit of 20 hours? Because it hasn't been in the law for the last like really 10, 15 years. And people still ask the question, so it must be somewhere. So was there some kind of website where you found it, or just a general knowledge or something, or how it works in other countries? Just if you can let me know, like I'm genuinely interested to see where you get this kind of information, because it's like a common question to ask. That no, you can, the thing is that you must come here under the proper student visa. That means, or student residence permit. That means that you must study an accredited program. If it's an accredited program, then it gives you a free access to the labor market. I'll explain in a second, but if you don't study an accredited program, in most cases, if you study some private university or some preparation courses which are not accredited, so if you come here under the other purpose of stay, then you cannot work. You don't have free access to the labor market. But if you come here as a proper student, let's say, you have free access to the labor market, so you can work freely. You can work even 40 hours a week or even more if you want. But the main thing is that the purpose of your stay here is studies. So you primarily need to study. And as long as you manage to study and have a full-time job at the same time, you are fine. Of course, it's questionable if you don't go to school and you still pass the exams and then you work full-time, if the ministry would see that as you really are here as a student and the job is just a secondary activity, but that's a different question. But technically you can work even full-time, but you need to still fulfill the conditions of your current residence permit or visa. So if you have a student residence permit, you need to study. And if you manage to work full-time, you can. Yeah, Mira, I actually heard it from friend. Ask the friend, please, if they can share some resource, because it's a common like myth, and I don't know why it's still around. Anyway, so the last questions. Europe for you, please reply my question. Can I get my insurance back, which I bought for study visa if my employer is paying insurance? Well, you might get some money back. Not sure about the insurance itself, but I would definitely wait until you pass the probation period, because if you now get the money back and then your employer fires you or you leave, you would still need to buy the insurance, but you would have lost like 30% or 40% of the amount. So it makes no sense. So I would not rush into canceling it. But yes, if you get a full-time job and you get the public health insurance card, you can potentially cancel the private insurance you bought, but you will never get the full money back. Most of the insurance companies take like 30 or 40% of a fee, and they anyway only calculate it from the months you haven't used. So if you got the insurance for 12 months, you're already 2 months in, they would only refund you 60% of the 10 months or something. So that's one of the reasons I would recommend waiting until you pass the probation. Mir, thank you, Mr. Jan. My pleasure. Guys, you are asking more and more questions, which is great, and I would normally appreciate it. I just need to run somewhere as well. So I'll do the last 2 questions, Malhai and Set Osei, and then I go. Okay, so I'm here in Kuwait for almost 5 years. The processing is already going, but the agency told me that the embassy of Czech are asking for bank statement and should be 700 whatever is the currency. There is no reason, like, of course, I don't know anything about your case, okay? So what I'm saying is like a general, because I don't know exactly what you're applying for. I don't know like what documents you submitted. I don't know anything about the agency you work with. So anything. But generally speaking, if you apply for a residence permit based on employment, you don't need to prove any funds, because obviously your employer will be paying for your living expenses here, like your salary. So you usually don't need to provide any proof of funds for employment related residence permits. So I'll say, please, a friend went for interview on Thursday, and he was asked the age of his brother, and he said 23, but on the visa form he wrote 99, which is 25 years. Well, yeah, what's the question there? Now, of course, like if you don't know how old is your brother, or if you don't know where your school is located, and if you don't know what subjects you will be studying, that's not good for your visa, and it can potentially lead to a visa denial. Also depends why they asked, because maybe they found out that the age is different, so they wanted to verify that, or it was just some random question and they will not even see that he misspoke or that he got it not right. So it depends why they asked them. So last thing, my name is Sarat Kumar. So Sarat Kumar, hey, I'm working in Czech Republic last 2 years and 3 months. How can I get my taxes? What do you mean? If you're employed, then your employer does your taxes every year. And if there was something to return, they should have returned that to you. If they haven't, there wasn't either anything to return or they kept it. So double check with your employer. So guys, thank you very much for joining. Again, I said like 15 minutes and it's 40 minutes almost. So thank you. If you like my content, please share it, like, comment, recommend the channel to your friends, wherever you think it might help. And I've done 350 videos, 380 videos, something like that. So I've answered probably every possible question there is about immigration. So yeah, please share it. I'll be happy, and you'll help spread the knowledge. So thank you very much, guys. Good night, and see you again next time, Thursday, Monday, until the end of the world. See ya.